Once again, we have a fatal Ro-Ro fire. Hi, I'm Peter Zabrowski with Halifax Shipping News. And 20 days ago, we talked about a fire aboard the Conroe ship Grande Costa d'Avorio at the port of Newark in New Jersey. It suffered a vehicle fire which burned for several days and cost the lives of 2 firefighters who went missing while trying to fight that fire. Last night, just before midnight Netherlands time, the Fremantle Bridge, which is a K-Line operated pure car truck carrier, reported a fire on its vehicle decks. The crew attempted to fight the fire but were unsuccessful and were forced to abandon ship. Some of the crew were evacuated by helicopter. The remainder of the crew jumped into the sea to abandon ship and were picked up by a Dutch Coast Guard lifeboat. One crew member has been confirmed killed. The circumstances surrounding their death are not yet known or publicly released, so we don't know what happened there. It appears that the crew of 23 attempted to fight the fire, but it grew too quickly and they were forced to abandon ship. When the helicopters arrived to take the crew off, they also brought a dedicated shipboard firefighting crew from Rotterdam who attempted to board the vessel to fight the fire but were unsuccessful. Currently, the ship is burning about 25 nautical miles off the coast. There are several tugs and Coast Guard vessels applying boundary cooling. From the images of the vessel, the fire looks to have burned through about 7 decks based on the damage to the outside, and visible flames are coming from the top deck, which contains the bridge and the accommodation section. The vessel has a list. However, there is a tow line to the bow of the vessel, so despite there being no crew on it, the salvage team does have control over the vessel, which allows them to position it with the wind for best effect. Current plan is to maintain control of the vessel, continuously apply cooling to the hull, hoping that the fire burns itself out or can be brought under control enough that salvage crews can make it on board the ship for final extinguishment. This ship sailed from Bremerhaven in Germany bound for Cairo. Bremerhaven is a large vehicle port in Germany. Volkswagen, BMW, and several other ship their vehicles from that port. K-Line itself operates a fleet of vehicle carriers. It's also reported that this ship does carry a number of electric vehicles. However, unclear if those were the source of the fire or a subsequent fuel source that's continuing the spread of the fire. This is the second Ro-Ro vessel fire this month. Like I previously mentioned, the Grande Costa d'Avorio caught fire at the port of Newark, New Jersey on July 6th, 20 days ago exactly. Fire aboard vessels is the number 3 reason for vessel loss according to the Alliance Safety Survey. That's behind grounding and foundering. So this is, certainly a large problem. Ro-Ro vessels in particular, with their large open decks, tend to fare badly because there's no compartmentalization that prevents the fire from spreading. As well, the large open decks lead to stability issues if cargo breaks free and shifts the balance of the ship, or even just firefighting water collecting on board. Other recent Ro-Ro deck fires, the Ho Chi Minh caught fire in Jacksonville, Florida. That as well was at the port. The ship was declared a constructive total loss. The U.S. Navy amphibious assault ship Bonhomme Richard also suffered a fire on its vehicle deck, though that was not caused by vehicles burning. Fire also led to a constructive total loss of the ship. Ro-Ro fires are becoming not uncommon events, and they usually end badly for the vessel. Seeing the amount of damage and the spread of the fire after less than 24 hours leads me to believe that there is a high likelihood that this vessel too will be lost. Like I said in the video on the Grande Costa d'Avorio, fighting a vehicle fire on board a ro-ro vessel is extremely difficult. The way the cars are stowed on the ship, there is mere inches between them, which makes traveling between the vehicles just in normal workwear difficult. Much more so when wearing SCBA and full firefighting ensemble. I have some concerns about just in general with shipboard firefighting standards, whether or not they're actually sufficient to extinguish a fire. The small crew size, 23 persons on the vessel, still need people on the bridge to control the vessel, engineers in the engine room to ensure that the mechanical systems are working. That leaves a limited crew available to fight the fire. Given the nature of the vehicle decks, which are often low, they retain heat. The metal itself heats up from the fire. There's zero visibility because the smoke gets trapped, makes fighting these fires extremely difficult. And for a crew that may periodically train with the firefighting equipment but doesn't have a lot of experience fighting actual fires in that environment, it's going to be a very difficult task. And if you're not in peak physical shape, it's going to be extremely tiring, meaning that your effective firefighting force is probably only 10 to 15 people, and those people are going to only be good for 20 or 30 minutes before they need to swap out and take a rest break. So you might get 3 or 4 cycles out of them, so you maybe have at most an hour and a half of firefighting ability on board one of these vessels with just the crew without outside assistance. And in this case, the crew was unsuccessful in controlling the fire and was forced to abandon ship. One other shout out I want to give to the Dutch Coast Guard, who have a continuously updated, they call it a live blog about this incident. So essentially they have a web page where they are posted the initial report about the fire and then provide periodic updates with photos and video as they're available to keep people updated. So where we are now, it's 10:43 Atlantic time. So this fire has now been burning approximately 24 hours, probably just a little bit over. It has burned through at least 7 decks aboard the ship. The ship is under tow, so there is some control and exterior cooling is being applied. The next 24 hours will probably tell us whether or not the ship is saved or if it sinks. Now, these fires are serious. They're a big problem, and I think we need to bring awareness of the risks of ro-ro vessels and vehicle fires on board them, both for the seafaring community who are working with these vessels out at sea, as well as for people in the ports that host these. My home port of Halifax is home to Autoport, where basically every vehicle imported on the east coast of Canada passes through. So we get significant auto carrier traffic, and based on the Ho Chi Minh and the Grande Costa d'Avorio, I think it's probably just a matter of time before a vehicle fire occurs here. We also have Atlantic Container Lines, which is a subsidiary of the Grimaldi Group, owners of the Costa Grande d'Avorio, who export used cars out of the Fairview Cove container terminal. The risk is here, the risk is at sea. It's a big problem. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up, like it, subscribe to the channel to be made aware of future updates. Depending on how this goes, there will likely be an update video in a day or two.